In this episode, a fox stole fox mittens, a fox doorstop, the foxes that are on my property, and how to turn a regular pair of mittens into fox mittens. I'm going to teach you at the end. Of foxes, a leash of foxes. How do you get them on a leash? A kit. The kits are the little ones, and the mother who has kits is called an earth. Hi friends, my name is Diane and this is My Pink Bathtub Knits. Today's episode is all about foxes. It's about the foxes that are on our property and the foxes that I knit, some of the knits that are inspired by these foxes. Now, I've been knitting foxes for quite some time, and they're kind of making a comeback. I've been knitting for over 10 years, selling product at my markets, and sold many a fox stole in my day, which is what I am wearing. It is kind of warm, so I'm not going to keep it on for the entire episode, but I'd like to show you this right away as soon as I finish my row. First rule in knitting, finish your row. Now, I'm actually making another fox stole as we speak. It is a scarf, and this is what it looks like. There's the tail. Now, it has a little loop at the back of its head that will keep the scarf in place nicely for you. And the beauty about this scarf is it'll fit a child to an adult size because you can slide it as wide as you need it to fit around your neck. What do you think? I'm gonna take it off because it's a little warm. This is the one I made, Mama G, if you're watching, the yarn you sent me. This was a Vanna's Choice called Autumn Print, and I had literally just enough to make this scarf. I had to do the ears in a different color. So when you put it on, notice it's got this loop here at the back. You put it around your neck. I always fold the tail in half to make it easier. You've got your loop. You pull it through the tail, through the loop. You just have to self-adjust. There is your tail, and there is your fox. So this one's gonna be a one-off at my markets because I don't have any more of this yarn. Super cute. I do have this pattern in my Ravelry store for purchase. But again, we're gonna play a little game, and I'm gonna give away one free pattern to a viewer today. And I'll drop the information somewhere throughout this video. The pattern is called Fox Stole, and it's actually a really decent beginner pattern. There's a lot of just garter stitch on it, and I always use acrylic yarn, but you could use whatever you want. When I started making them, and I'm gonna be dropping some pictures, bam, bam, booba, bam, while I talk about this, so I'll get in the center so I can drop some stuff. Because I made it in various colors. The most popular are obviously the rusts and reds and the grays. So I made them for several years. I found the pattern online, just the idea of the wrapped scarf with the loop. And then I designed the face, this face myself to kind of make it a unique pattern, and I adjusted the sizes a bit. So that is that. I'm going to show you a couple other ones I have. This is it in a darker red color. And again, I'll pop a few photos on. And this is one of them in a gray. So they're super cute. They're super fun. I have sold them to adults and children. And because they're kind of a inclusive size, because you can pull the loop up and down as much as you want, it's pretty versatile in the size you want to make it for. So there is some basic measurements on how long to do the tail and the scarf part, etc., but you can adjust it. I would suggest while you're knitting it to wrap it around your neck and see if it's an appropriate size. See, I've started doing the white part on the head because I know this is going to be a good size. And it is rather stretchy because this part is just garter stitch. Here's the thing about foxes and on our property. We live in Canada in the province of Manitoba, smack dab in the middle of the country. We live outside of the city of Winnipeg on a small acreage, and our property is very well treed. So 3 years ago, we have outdoor cameras for our property that go off by motion. And we have outdoor lights that also go out by motion. So 3 years ago, we started getting these notifications on our camera of various photos, usually around 4:30 in the morning. So it was still dusk kind of time. The sun hadn't fully come up. Then one day we got a notification, and on it, it said pet. You know, it'll say like person or whatever, and it's a great tool to use when you're at work and you're waiting for your yarn order to arrive at the front door. And you know, you can actually watch the mailman drop it off, and it's very exciting. It notifies you that someone was at your door. Well, this time it said pet. We have a pet fox. We have a pet fox on our property. It was so exciting to me. I've been knitting foxes for a while, but this has really ramped up my fox knitting enterprise, so to speak. But once in a while we see them frolicking in our backyard, and now it's not so big of a deal for me because I'm kind of used to them. It's almost like seeing a dog in your backyard, and I don't rush out or I don't grab my camera. I just sit and look out the window and enjoy. Not like when I first started seeing them. I would literally just watch them as long as I could see them. And anyway, they're fantastic. At one time, I think we had up to 6 kits on our property, and they just play and frolic like little dogs and jump on each other and roll around, and they're just adorable. So last summer, I did get a few really good shots, and one of them was a fox having his dinner in my front flower bed. So it was literally just outside the window. So here you go. And then after you eat, you always want to give yourself a good head scratch. So unfortunately, it was a bunny that he was eating, so that was a little savage, but I got a couple good shots out of it. And then he proceeded to, he was attempting to dig a hole to save the bunny head for a later snack. That's when I intervened, and I kind of went outside and shooed him away. And luckily he grabbed the head and took it with him because I didn't need that in my life. 3 things I would really love and appreciate for you to do if you're enjoying my content and to be actively eligible for this free knitting pattern is to like this video, to comment on this video, and I'd like you to make a comment about using the word skulk, S-K-U-L-K. Now, a skulk represents a grouping of foxes, so if you can somehow creatively mention the word skulk and not fox in your comment, then I will know that you're interested in this knit pattern, and I will write up all of those individual names in a draw, and I will pull the name in a separate video 1 week later from today's date, which I will post on here because I don't know the date yet. So you need to like the video, you need to comment, and I would love it if you were a public subscriber. So those are the 3 things with the comment word skulk. And if you are not a knitter and you win this prize, I am totally fine with you sharing this with a knitter, but please don't multiple share it because it is a paid pattern, and I'm trusting that you're just gonna give it to one person, not reproduce it. So that is the draw entry, right smack dab in the middle of this video. I hope you watch the rest of it. Here's another thing I make. I may have shown from time to time the owls that I have made, which are like stuffed owls. And now this is a stuffed fox. It's pretty much using the same pattern shape as the owl. Love this little tail. And then you knit this piece and you hand stitch it onto the top of it. Now it's knit from the bottom up to the top in the round with double pointed needles, and it is stuffed with polyfill, but it is also weighted. I use playground sand. I showed this in an earlier video. I also call it my heroin bricks because it, you know, it's in Ziploc bags and then I tape it really tight and it does look a little suspicious. But I use that to weight it, just so essentially it will stand at attention and stand up. It's heavy enough to keep an interior door open, but it's also so it can stand up for like in a children's room if you want to put it on a shelf or whatnot. Some people have used it on their beds as pillows and it just adds a nice extra weight to it. So these are pretty popular, and I think I'll show you a couple of the other colors that I've done in these. They do take up a lot of space on my market table, so I usually just have a couple at each market. And the other thing that I make quite frequently, as you know, I'm a mitten maker. Mitten maker is mittens. Now, for my adult size, I like to have 100% acrylic and then an acrylic wool blend of some kind. But this particular mitten that I found, that is my wool blend, has alpaca in it as well, and it is double knit. I've been cleaning out my yarn room quite extensively, or trying to organize it, and I found some yarn that I kind of felt I'm never going to use this yarn. And I had a pile of it. Hubs was like, what's with the piles? And I said, well, I think I'm going to sell this on Facebook Marketplace. But he convinced me to keep it. Keep it for giveaways, or keep it, you never know if you're going to be able to use it on a project. And I'm glad he did, because one of the yarns that I was intending to get rid of, and I was only going to get rid of it because I found it was rather thin. I loved the color, but I found it was rather thin and not something that I intended to use it. Its original intent was not going to be used for that purpose. And I thought, let's just start clearing this stuff out. So it's this jeans yarn from Lion Brand, and it's classified as a 4-weight, but it is a little thin. It seems really thin to me. I love the color. This color is called Top Stitch. It's 100% acrylic, I believe. And there's a lot in here. There's 246 yards in here. Another reason why I don't really believe this is a 4-weight, because look at how small the ball is for 246 yards. Yeah, I think it's 100% acrylic. Let's double check. It's called Top Stitch. Yeah, 100% acrylic. I mean, it's nice. It's got a nice kind of bit of a marled look to it. Most of them are in blues, but this one is this kind of, I guess it's supposed to represent the stitching on a jean. So I thought at first, this is going to be perfect for foxes and for fox mittens, but it was just a little too thin for my standard 4-weight, which quite often is my Vanna's Choice yarn from Lion Brand I use on my kids mittens and that's a 4-weight. Sorry, just had a momentary brain lapse there. That's a 4-weight yarn, the Vanna's Choice, and this is thinner. By far, it's thinner. So then I went on Len's Mill, and I didn't show you guys this yarn haul because in some ways I was a little embarrassed that I was buying so much yarn lately. But when I had my Len's Mill video, and I always say it wrong, Len's Mill video about their yarn and the yarn you could buy, which is $50 free. $50 of yarn in Canada is free shipping, and they do ship to the States. Not sure about their shipping, but they have some amazing deals sometimes. So they had this yarn, which I've used before for mittens, this Patton's Alpaca Blend. Now I think this is going to be discontinued, but look at that color and look at these two colors together. So friends, I held these two together to make extra thick mittens for my wool blend mittens for foxes. Now quickly, so this was on sale and then they had 50% off. And then there was an additional, I think $10 off if you spent $100 plus free shipping. Well, I bought out, like I didn't even buy all this, but I bought a lot of this. I think I bought almost 20 balls of this because I'm not gonna be able to find it again. And yeah, it's gorgeous. So this is actually 60% acrylic, 22% wool, 10% nylon, and 8% alpaca. And to do this together was perfect because I usually have done double knit mittens with an alpaca blend and an acrylic. And because this is so thin, it doesn't make the mitten too thick. I'm rambling on. You just got to see this now. You got to see it to believe it. This is the mitten. This is the two held together. Look at how nice that looks. I am super stoked about this one. So this is going to be my wool blend mitten for foxes. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a tutorial of how to make any pair of knit mittens that you have into foxes. I'm also going to make it as a separate video for my Learn to Knit. Watch my Learn to Knit group of videos. What is that called? Why am I not forming sentences right now? My playlist. Hello, playlist. So I'm going to do it separate, but I'm also going to add it to the end of this video. So feel free, if you don't want to learn how to do that, to stop watching this before the tutorial. So that's my wool one. I am thrilled, and I thank you, Hubs, for convincing me not to get rid of that yarn. Now I feel like I need to buy more of it to make more of those mittens, but I will wait. And then this is my version of the 100% acrylic, which is made with Color Made Easy yarn. Again, a discontinued yarn. Queen of discontinued. But I have a lot of this in my stash. So this is 100% acrylic. It is a 5-weight bulky yarn. It's lovely. And this is the version for the adult acrylic. I also make this is kind of like a youth size. I've got my little label on there, so I'm sticking it in. This is kind of like a youth size basic mitten that I turned into foxes. And this is what the toddler size looks like that I sell. So the youth size actually will fit a small adult hand. There's some ladies out there with really teeny tiny hands, and it does fit them. A little snug, but some people like snugger mittens. And then this is the toddler, I call it a toddler size, but it fits up to an age 4. And these mittens, I include mitten clips with them. I found a really great price, bulk price of mitten clips, and I always include them with them because as cute as they are, kids lose their mittens, so God willing, they won't with these clips. Here's a random story for you. A few years back, there was 2 teachers at my school that were both expecting babies. Well, their wives were. And wouldn't you know it, that they turned up at the same hospital on the same day to have their 2 babies. So the first baby was Harper, and this is little Matthew, and I had to make foxes for both of them. I think they're going to be turning 5 very soon. I want to share with you a new friend that I made on YouTube recently. Her name is Dawn, and her channel is Yarn is a Sport. And I don't know how I stumbled across her, but I did. And I am going to link her channel below, and I encourage you to check her out. She is incredibly knowledgeable about many fiber arts. And she is recently retired, like myself, a little bit longer than I am. And her husband and her have been traveling in their RV. So she has a couple little hiding stashes where she hides extra yarn because they have limited space in their RV, such as her husband's golf clubs. Check her out, Yarn is a Sport. Her name is Dawn. And I think at this point, I am going to go to the craft table with my water, and I am going to now show you how to use the magic of yarn to turn a regular pair of mittens into a pair of fox mittens. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video to be eligible for the skulk of fox scarves that you are going to be soon knitting. Watch for that video. I'm going to do a separate little video draw the following week, so a week from today of when this is posted. So let's go to the craft table and let's learn how to make a pair of fox mittens. Cheers, everyone. Hi everyone, this is Diane from My Pink Bathtub Knits. Today we are going to take a regular pair of knitted mittens and turn them into a pair of fox mittens. Now this mitten pattern is not an original of mine. It is from Tin Can Knits, the world's simplest mittens, and I have linked it below in the description field. It is a great versatile mitten pattern that you can use various weights of yarn and make in various sizes. So check that out. And once you have your mittens knit, here's how you turn them into a pair of fox mittens. For this tutorial, you will be using double pointed needles, the same size needles that you use to knit your mitten. And you are going to be picking up the stitches directly from the mitten and knitting the ears. I often use a slanted needle to pick up the stitches first, and then I transfer them onto my double pointed needle. And if I have one mitten already not done, I like to kind of gauge where I'm going to start on the beginning, the very first stitch of picking up. So I would say it's down here. We're just going to pick up 6 stitches. And then we are going to transfer them onto our double pointed needle. And I usually just look to see if it kind of lines up with my other one. Now I am going to pick up 6 stitches directly behind this first needle so that you have 12 in total. And then again, you're going to slip it onto your needle. You can also just use the tip of your double pointed needle, whatever is easier for you. It does take a little bit of practice to do this. I think I only have 5 here. Let's look. Yeah, I only have 5, so I need 1 more. And I will just pick it up from here. So now that you have 12 stitches in total placed over 2 needles, you are going to use a 3rd double pointed needle and attach your yarn. Now the secret to making these mittens point correctly is to always start your first stitch with the right hand side of your work facing you. So this is the right hand side of the mitten, so we're going to start right here. We're going to just leave a little bit of a tail, and our first row or round, because when we knit in the round, it is called a round, we are just going to knit the first row of stitches that we just picked up all the way around. So the first needle, and then we're going to turn our work and do our second needle. It may be a little tight at first. This is very normal. I'm going to turn our work and knit the back stitches now. I tend to knit into the back of the stitches when I pick them up as opposed to knitting from the front. So now we have our first row done, and we are going to start decreasing. Again, we have the live stitches facing us on the right hand side of our mitten. Our first two stitches we are going to knit two together. And then we're going to knit to the end of this needle. So there's 4 stitches left that we are just doing knitting. And then we're going to turn our work. And at the back needle, we're going to knit the next 4 stitches. Having a heck of a time with my, hold on here. We are going to knit the next 4 stitches on the back of our work. And when we get to the last 2 stitches, we are going to slip, knit, pass over, SKPO. So we're going to slip this stitch onto our right hand needle without knitting it. We are going to knit the last stitch. Then we are going to take our left hand needle and we're going to pick up this slipped stitch and pass it over the knit stitch. We are going to repeat this until we have 2 stitches on each needle. So we're going to knit 2 together. And then knit the last 3 stitches. Going to turn our work. Tail is getting in the way, isn't it? We are going to knit from the back the first 3 stitches. Then we are going to slip, knit, and pass over. We're going to turn our work back to the front and repeat, but we have less stitches, so we are going to knit 2 together. And then knit the last 2 stitches. Turning our work at the back, we are going to knit 1, knit 2. I'm going to slip, knit, and pass over. You can see it's starting to create an angle. Now here is our last row for the ears. It's that simple. We're going to knit these first 2 together again, and then we are going to, this guy got slipped off. Let me just fix him. There. We are going to knit this stitch. We are going to turn our work. Knit, slip, knit, and pass over. Now we have 2 stitches in the first needle, 2 stitches in the back. We are going to cut our yarn. We are going to take a darning needle, wool needle, and we are going to put the first 2 stitches on it, pull through, gently pull. Then we are going to put the back 2 on it and pull through. There is our first ear. We are then going to just get rid of these ends. We are going to pull just going to be hiding these inside the actual ear because it is double layered. And just snip it. We are now going to pick up 6 stitches on the other side, but we are going to turn our work, and again we are going to work with this being the front of our work, the right hand side of the mitten. To line it up, I usually just take my needle, go straight across to kind of get a gauge of where I need to start picking up my stitches. And again, we are going to pick up 6 on the back row. Once we have picked up 6 stitches in the front and the back, and we are working with our work with these live stitches on the right hand side of our mitten, we will again do the exact same thing that we did with the other mitten. So we're going to knit the first row, and this time I am going to go a little to the side. I'm going to write it out as we go. We're going to knit around to the first row, knit every stitch that you've picked up. Turn your work, and you're going to knit back the way you came there. A little hint about these mittens, these ears for these mittens can be used for other animals. For example, kittens. These are the exact same ears that I use when I make my kitten mittens. So pretty versatile, and you can kind of have some fun with them and make other animals as well. Again, our work is on the right hand side. We are going to knit the first 2 stitches together. Knit 2 together, knit to the end of this needle, turn your work, knit the next 4 stitches. Yeah, kind of goes off the tip rather easily. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going to slip, knit, and pass over. You are going to repeat this, knit 2 together, knit to the end of the row. On the back needle, knit to the last 2 stitches, and then slip, knit, pass over. And then I will show you how to decorate the rest of the fox. Fortunately, my camera turned off when I was just closing up this first ear, so I'm going to show you again. I just have a wool needle that I have put my tail through. I'm going to take the first 2 stitches off the needle and pull. Then we're going to turn it and do the last 2 stitches. And gently pull it closed. Then we are going to hide our 2 tails into our mitten. So I'm just gonna go from the front to the back here and thread this tail at the bottom in. Because you've knit in the front, in the back, there is space to hide these tails. Just kind of stick it through, make sure it's not sticking on the outside, and securely pull it through and snip the excess. Same with the top. Just going to pull it through to the bottom there. Snugly pull it through and snip the excess. So let's make sure that we are working on the correct side now for these mittens. You want them to line up so that the face is on the outside with the thumbs. So this would be the front of our mitten, and we want to duplicate this face. Now I like putting a little bit of white yarn in here just to add a little bit of more character to the fox. You can leave it plain if you so desire, but this is how I do the ear. Just take a little piece of scrap yarn. This is actually a bit thinner. This is a 4-weight yarn. I'm using a 3-weight yarn for the details. You can use the same thickness. So we're just going to put a little piece on our darning needle. We are going to go along the edge at the bottom of the mitten and just pull it through, leaving some on the other side here. You want to look at the back of your work and make sure that you don't have it poking out on this side. And we are just going to simply darn some of this through to add a little bit of interest. I'm going to push it all the way through into the mitten for this last part because I want to secure it on the inside so this does not fall out or come apart, I should say. So we're just going to make sure that our needle is not poking through on the other side. And we're going to pull this all the way into the inside of the mitten. Now this last piece, we're going to go up here and then pull it into the inside of the mitten as well. And push it down there. It's so hard when you're working with these little teeny mittens to get inside with an adult size hand. There is that. Now we're going to go inside out. We have 2 pieces here left. And I essentially just tie it with a double knot to secure it and then trim it. At one time I used to just kind of weave it into the mitten, but I feel like if you knot it, it will not come apart with wear. Do it 3 times. And then just trim the excess. Now that we have the ears complete, we are going to knit this snout. Now I put buttons on my mittens, but you could also just hand stitch in the nose and the eyes. It's your decision. I find it very challenging to get your hand in a smaller size mitten to sew on the buttons. And I have quite often sewn the back of the mitten shut while trying to sew the buttons onto the mitten. So it is a bit of a task to do, but in one way, buttons are the bane of my existence, but also I find it really finishes off the product well. So now we're going to do this snout. So you're going to use the same yarn that you used as your inner ear yarn, and you're going to use the 2 double pointed needles, and we're just going to knit a little triangle, and then we're going to hand stitch this on. Now this is a bit of a thinner yarn than I did the mittens in, but you could use the same brand or thickness of yarn to do so. So we are going to leave a little bit of a tail because we need that to stitch it onto the body of the mitten. We're going to use our slip knot and we're going to cast on 5 stitches. You could of course do this on regular needles, but I find it quite easy to work with double pointed needles as much as possible, even if I'm not knitting in the round. Now that we have our 5 stitches on our needle, we are going to purl the first row. Turn our work. Now we are going to knit 2 together and then knit the last 3 stitches. Turn our work. We are going to purl 2 together and purl the last 2 stitches. Turn our work, knit 2 together, knit 1, and turn our work one last time and purl the last 2 stitches together. This is creating a little triangle. Going to cut our work. We're going to leave a bit of a tail because we want to be able to stitch it onto our fox face. Grab your wool needle and just pull it through the live stitch to close it. Here is your triangle. It is a little bit thinner on this yarn that I have used because, as I said, it's a smaller weight yarn than the actual mitten. And I just kind of eyeball it and then I start knitting it directly onto the mitten. Just kind of freehand it. And because it's a little thinner, I will probably be knitting like some of the holes a little closed as well. This should not happen if you use the same thickness of weight of yarn when you do it, but I like this thinner yarn for finishing, so I tend to use a smaller, thinner yarn when I do my finishing work on my projects. So I always go around one time, just lightly kind of picking up the top of the stitch and knitting through just to kind of get the base of it in place. And then I take the excess and I go around and kind of baste it just to give it a nicer finish. However it works for you. I am by no means a professional sewer or embroiderer when it comes to this. I just kind of work on it until I feel like the edge and the finish looks nice, and I am happy with it. Every face tends to look a little different when I do mittens. That is kind of the beauty of handmade. No two mittens are, or no two sets of mittens are exactly alike, and I kind of like that. Sometimes they have a little bit more character to them than other times. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is taking shape now. Now that we have done our snout, the final step is adding the buttons. Now you don't have to have that perfect of a corner on any of these because you're going to be literally placing your buttons on either side and at the bottom, which does make it look a lot bigger once you do that. And it brings it to life. Now I am not going to subject you with me sewing on buttons because this will not be a PG rated show at this point. I will be swearing because I do get frustrated and end up generally, as I said, sewing the mitten closed. So it does take a little bit of patience. Here you go. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make a pair of fox mittens. If you do not want to use buttons, you can of course just embroider with some little black yarn, the 3 corners to finish off the project. I hope you enjoyed learning how to turn a regular pair of mittens into fox mittens. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video if you think there's someone out there that you know that will enjoy it. And until next time, keep on knitting, friends. Bye for now.